Welcome to Monster Monday. Today we're going to be tackling Deep Rising. This was sent to me by a subscriber of mine. I'm guessing you could probably figure out who this was from, since he sends me so many damn things. But yes, Johnny Banks, thank you for the Blu-ray, man. It has been a long time since I've seen this film. I have no memory of it outside of the jet ski jumping out of the boat, big explosion. I watched like the making of on TV, the model that they built. That was pretty cool. So that's like about the only thing I remember outside of that, and kind of the basic premise, of course. So yeah, let's talk about Deep Rising, which is an oxymoron, right? Now, this is directed by Stephen Sommers, who did The Mummy Returns. Kevin O'Connor is from those, and he is here, and he plays a character named Joey. And I would say Joey is probably the highlight of the movie for me. I thought a lot of his comedy was working for me, and I just really genuinely liked his character. The character that Treat Williams here plays, now Treat Williams is an actor that I've seen a ton, but he's not someone that I associate any specific character with. It's, when I see Bruce Willis, I'm immediately like John McClane, or if I see, whatever. Like, I usually have a character that I'll pin them to when I see them. He's not somebody I pin any character to, so it's weird. And there's plenty of actors like this, but when I was watching this, I was trying to be like, okay, what I know him best from? When I think of him, I just don't really think of him, to be honest, because he isn't in a ton of what I watch. But his character in this is very Han Solo. I mean, the ship that he has, and his pilot's chair, and that whole inner cabin, his little flight, boat, deck, whatever the hell, this little captain's quarters. I guess the captain quarters where you sleep, huh? I don't know. I don't know what the hell you call it. Not familiar with boat terms, to be honest. But yeah, it's super Han Solo. And I had read in the trivia that Harrison Ford was originally offered the part, so I'm guessing he declined because he was like, this is way too Han Solo. No way. So they cut the budget and they hired Treat, and they hired Famke as well. So Famke is one of the most beautiful women ever, and now a character that I associate with her immediately is Jean Grey. I think that a good amount of people would probably agree with me on that. That's kind of like what she's known for, and she's good here. She's a thief who gets wrapped up with them because she is in a makeshift brig that they have to throw her in, and so she's not being eaten by what's rising from the deep. So yeah, let's get to the movie. Now, the ship disappears in this area. They kind of start off saying that there's these areas of the ocean where there's peaks and valleys and mountains that could fit this and that. Crazy. The ocean is this wild, fucking, unexplored frontier of this planet. It's wild. It's this huge thing. It's chasms and areas where we just, we have yet to explore very well because of the pressure and because of blah, blah, blah. So it's wild to think that there's places on this earth that we're fairly unfamiliar with. Yes, there's been people who go down to these places, but for not very long, and they can't do a whole lot. So it's wild to think, what the hell's under there. So of course, us little science fiction writers, we like to just be like, well, it's a tentacle monster, and it can come up without dying of depressurization and all that. So, a lot of familiar faces in this. A lot of familiar faces. Dude from Last of the Mohicans who plays like the Native American guy in every movie. They're like, all right, so the script has an older Native guy. Call that dude. Like, they have the one dude on Rolodex. Now Lou Diamond Phillips, I think, can play that role too because he's older. But for a while, he's like the only dude they had on call. So they were just like, get him, They grabbed him, and he's been in plenty of other things, as well. But it's funny to see him. Jaimun, how do you say that guy's name? From like Blood Diamond, and even Guardians of the Galaxy of recent, and Amistad, and That was like his big role. That was his big breakout. It was almost done. And then other faces that you would recognize as soon as you saw them. Well, there's some scenes in this that are very Poseidon Adventure. I was a big fan of the original Poseidon Adventure. I saw the remake that Wolfgang Peterson did. When was that? 2005? Memory serves? I don't know. I thought that was pretty terrible, and the cast was incredible, including Kurt Russell of all people. And I was like, oh man, we have today's effects, and we have all this. It's going to be badass. I mean, it's such a great story. And I just remember it being terrible. And I was bummed, man, because I'm such a big fan. Such a big fan of the original, man. Gene Hackman and all that. That movie is freaking awesome. If you haven't seen the original Poseidon Adventure, do yourself a favor. I'm big into disaster films, the 70s disaster movies that they were pumping out. That's my favorite of all of them. And beyond the Poseidon Adventure, there's a sequel that takes place like a minute after the first one ends, where they go in through the hole that they did. It's pretty cool. That's actually a good movie. It's got a really good cast. Sally Field in a very young role there. Telly, sorry, I always call him Terry for some reason. Telly Savalas, and lots of cool people in that movie. So check it. Anyways, Jesus Christ. But I'm talking about a ship, and it's rolling around, and we got all this crap. Well, it's not rolling around, but that's the way it looks on the camera. It's just Poseidon Adventure. Okay, let's keep on track. And I mean, this guy even says that the Han Solo type character. I didn't write his fucking name down here. Oops. I got a bad feeling about this. I mean, they couldn't have been more on the nose with their Han Solo homage. Oh man, this Asian chick in this movie that at the beginning, she's the girlfriend of Joey. She's so freaking hot, and she gets naked for a second, and you're like, please, but nope. 90s horror, people, no titties in 90s horror. And when they break out the gore, it's bad CGI gore. Ugh. Blech. What's worse than no gore at all? CGI gore in a lower budget movie, or in a time when they still hadn't figured out CGI. So I'm sure that, like, because people shit on CGI gore in movies. Like, you know, when you watch, there's plenty of it. It's The Thing. Oh my God, the new Thing, which is an excellent movie with terrible effects because they fucking covered the practicals that they did. They went out of their way to do these amazing practical effects that we'll probably never see. I pray to God one day they will release the practical version. I will buy a fucking copy for $50 goddamn if I have to. I want a Blu-ray of the practicals. Probably never happen. I don't know why. We would all buy it and everyone would see how awesome it is. But you look at that, and that's even newer, so like, we can't even do that by like the 90s. But if you were to take like today's special effects, if you were to take ILM, or if you take like the big real companies and put tons of money, if you had like Disney money, if you have a $200 million movie or something like that, you could make the most amazing gore ever, and people would be like, oh wow. You could make unbelievable special effects on werewolves and all sorts of stuff. It's just that they don't have the budgets. Even Underworld and those stuff, they don't really have the budget to do this stuff. So I get annoyed when people always shit on CGI, because CGI is fucking amazing, people. It sucks in horror because they can't afford for it to be good. Okay? They could make amazing CGI monsters and whatnot. They just can't afford to do it. So, and horror movies are pretty basic in their premise. So you wouldn't have to spend the majority of your special effects budget making all these other wild things that would cost so much of the budget, and all these big actors, name actors and whatever. You put $200 million into just special effects, trust me, you'd all of a sudden be like, fuck practicals. They suck by comparison. So anyways, I'm not here to preach about that stuff. I get very annoyed with how people seem to think that CGI is lazy or something like that when it comes to practical. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. The CGI in these modern day movies is so much more impressive than any practical effects that have ever been done ever. I'm sorry. fucking burn me down to the ground all you want. But you were talking about literally like hundreds and thousands of artists that are working tirelessly day and night to create ligaments and bones and this and that so that everything moves correctly and this and that. And then you have some people, there's like 8 dudes that are using like gelatin molds and stuff, and they're moving around with their hands, and people are like, oh my god, that's amazing, but these guys' shit is garbage. It's like, you don't understand the process of it. CGI is incredible, okay? Anyways, okay. All right, stay on track, Jason. It's just something is very annoying to me. A lot of blood in this movie, a lot of blood. And the gore that we do see, we do get to see some, oh man, it is bad old CGI, and it is extremely noticeable. But when they cut that fucking thing, when they shoot that thing open, that guy falls out, and his body is like, you know, being dissolved, right? So he's got stomach acid on him, and his face, and all that, and it's going, his fucking goo, turn into goo, and his skull is open, his brain's kind of showing, and he's walking around. Oh man, he could, fuck, you could do such amazing shit with that today if you had today's CGI on that. Practicals would be cool too. I'd be fine with that either way. But this looks terrible. It's a great scene though. Like, conceptually, it's a great scene. Cutting this thing open, guy falling out, walking around, like when you're telling that, like you're pitching that or you're writing that and someone's reading it. Awesome. Awesome idea. Just poorly executed, which is a shame because it is really good. I love all the like bodies, the hallways, like they have like this death hallway with just bodies, and then at the end they find the whole like, you know, mass of bodies where this thing is excreting these, shitting them out, I suppose. And it's just goo and blood and bones everywhere. And that's awesome, okay? So that's like aftermath gore. I always talk about the two differences of seeing the gore takes place. Like, I feel like the reason that Hannibal could get away with being on NBC is because aftermath gore, aftermath death, staging gore, I suppose, where they make totems out of people, and they make, like, once the person's dead, you can do basically anything you want. They're making like wings out of their back and all sorts of shit. And they could show that on TV. But you can't show someone like walking a kid around and teaching them how to kill on that show. They got that fucking episode banned. Real quick. I don't even think they were allowed to show it. They showed like 13-minute episode, right? And then in Canada, like you had to go over to Canada to see the real episode. Or now buy the Blu-ray. But yeah, so like aftermath gore and actually like seeing a guy being split in half with an axe, like cutting him down, and he's screaming, and then it like boom, and he like his head explodes. And all. That is so much different than walking in and seeing a guy's head that's been split with the axe still in it. Those are just two completely different forms of effects and levels of gratuity and violence and gore. And I prefer seeing it take place on screen and the aftermath if necessary, if need be, if that's what the scene calls for. But it's much more gruesome. It's kind of like Walking Dead. When they're killing zombies, it's all okay. Like, that's gory as fuck. That's graphic, but they're not human, not really. But watching Glenn being beaten to death with a bat for 5 minutes, especially a beloved character like that, it adds some kind of emotional weight to it, and then it fucks with the viewers and whatnot. But I prefer that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of aftermath gore in this. We don't really see much real gore happening in the moment, but when we do, it's all CGI and really bad CGI. So I think those reasons are why this film really hurt. Like, it hurt the film a lot for me on this viewing experience. Maybe in 1998 it wouldn't have. And if I had the nostalgia of my acceptance of that stuff, because I had watched it once upon a time. Kind of like when I watched The Mummy, which he made the year after this, right? 1999, if I remember correctly. There's CGI in that does not age well. Absolutely not. But I remember that film very well. I've seen it many times. I think it is an excellent movie. fun movie. And so the aging of it works for me because I'm used to it mentally. I feel like I'm getting way off track here tonight, but whatever. And oh, I love that. I think it's Jaimin who gets or gets the axe in the head out of nowhere, kind of like the Brad Pitt scene in Burn After Reading. I thought that was awesome. That made me laugh out loud. I was like, oh yes, I like unexpected scenes out of nowhere. And we find out that the owner of the ship, like a Ismay type character from the Titanic, he was going to sink his ship for the insurance money because he never could take into consideration the overwhelming cost of upkeep on a ship of that size and scale. He said it was like 456 point something million dollars to build, but then of course, you know, that doesn't factor in. That's what happens with these people who win the lottery, and they always fuck up all their money and they lose it all, is because they don't take into account like property tax and all sorts of other things that come with it, the upkeep of things. They don't factor these things in. They're just fucking blowing money. They're just throwing it out there. And that's kind of what this guy did. He underestimated the after costs. Like, oh, I'll just make that all back from my passengers. But that's just not what obviously happened there. So not a wise investment. I'm not sure how this guy got rich, this rich, in order to do this if he doesn't understand business like that. But it happens all the time, so I'm not going to say it's not true. Why would they hire a random guy to pilot this ship out there when he hired like this whole mercenary crew to go up there and blow it up? Why does he need a mercenary crew at all? You just need a couple dudes who know how to drive a ship with torpedoes on them to have a ship. This is a guy with $450 something million to blow on a ship that he wants to get the insurance money off of. He's clearly rich as fuck. He had enough money to pay these guys, so he couldn't have, you know, given them money under the table for them to go buy their own ship, or find somebody who already possesses a ship like this instead of retrofitting some random guy who you don't know ship that you have to tell a lie, not even a lie to, but, you know, say nothing to, so you can pilot. You can't find, you don't have one. He couldn't have found somebody who could do this job. Please excuse me, I had to go wipe a butt of a 5-year-old. Yep. Awesome. Anyways, all right, I'm not gonna harp anymore about this this plan. I just don't understand why they don't have their own ship captain to take him out. Whatever. I'm over that. And so where are we? I like that the one guy gets pulled down with his legs. Like one leg goes down and this leg breaks up. Very, you know, the raft from Creep Show 2. And let's see. She even refers to his ship as a heap of junk. Very, very Han Solo as well. And they... Oh, God. So the dude from Last of the Mohicans is running back with Joey, and, you know, it's a very obvious scene. He's like, what are we going to feed him? And he shoots the guy. So this is a great scene in the movie. He shoots him to leave him behind, right? Because he's gonna make him the distraction so he can get away. Very Walking Dead Shane. And so he does that, but Joey survives. He crawls off into like the dumbwaiter, I think, something like that. And so then Joey comes upon this guy a little later in the movie, and he's being eaten by the monster. And so Joey, even though this guy shot him purposely and left him behind to die, Joey still gives him the gun so that he can kill himself and put himself out of his misery, because there's nothing to do to save him, and he can only imagine what he's getting done to him right then and there is horrendously painful. So Joey's a good dude. He's like, don't say I never did nothing for you. Hand him the gun. And then Joey goes to run off. And the guy, how he missed, I have no idea. He's like this trained mercenary. But whatever. He misses. He shoots at Joey. The guy who she just... What a fucking piece of shit. What reason would he have? Like, you're not living. I already made the decision to kill you. Like, you're just going down with me. So he shoots out and misses, and Joey's like, you're an asshole. What the hell? Wow. So he runs off. That doesn't make you jaded. I don't know what will. And then the guy puts the gun to his head, pulls the trigger, and he wasted the last bullet in the gun to try to betray the guy who just gave him this weapon after he tried to betray him. Wow. That is just so fucking great. That's such a great scene. It's so messed up. And I don't know. And then the guy has to suffer being swallowed by this thing and probably slowly digested. Although he would die of lack of oxygen. I just find that funny. Like, they talk about that, like the Sarlacc pit, where they're like, you'll be digested over 1,000 years. And it's like, yeah, but you're going to suffocate in 2 minutes. So what does that matter? It's not like it keeps a supply of oxygen and food running through you. And let's say it even did. Let's say it even did. You're not going to live 1,000 fucking years, no matter how well nourished you are, no matter what kind of stuff. This thing's got properties that keeps you alive for 1,000 years. We better dissect that thing and find out what there's in there so we can live 1,000 fucking years. Pain-free, please. It's just, I don't know. People never seem to take into account, oxygen. Oxygen, people. Like that guy that's half dissolved that falls out of there. Like, I don't know how long he was in there, but if it was more than like 5 minutes, what was he breathing? Maybe like no. I'm not going to go off on some random theory because it's not. Where are we? Oh my God, now there's something you don't see every day. How overused is that line? How many fucking times can it be inserted into a film for comedic purposes? It's not fucking funny anymore, okay? I know I'm an asshole. But that line kills me. It is so overused. And every time I hear it at the theater, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong here. Because every time I hear it at the theater, laughs, always. That always plays well to the audience. That's my imitation of everyone laughing at stupid things. Treat Williams gets attached to this thing and pulls it up in front of its face before it eats it. I don't know, to intimidate it, to take a gander at it. I like that the eyeball seems to be filled with like a watery fluid, like a seawater. That's what it looks like. I thought that was interesting. I don't know why it would be, but the design was fine. The big monster looks okay. Like, it doesn't look as bad as some of the other stuff in this, but definitely not anywhere near to today's standards or anything. But it doesn't look horrible. It just looks bad. Like, it's not that bad, but it's not great. But he blows the thing's eye out, and then they jet ski out of the place, and she's like, I like that he's like kind of shooting behind him, and then he's like telling her to cock it because he has to steer, which I thought was kind of great. You know, he's not being able to do the T2 swing around. It doesn't have that kind of cocking mechanism to it, but it's great. He just reaches back and she's, and then he blows this way and that way, and then he shoots the elevator doors. I don't know why those would open them, and then, but whatever. It's an action movie. It's fun. Shoots the doors. It goes through. Jumps out of the thing as it explodes. Torpedo turns around, kills the ship owner inside. And then, yeah, so Joey lives. They think he dies. He doesn't. He takes a surfboard and he just paddles himself like 6 miles to this island. Okay, it's not 6 miles, but it's like a mile or so it's not completely unbelievable. And then they go to this island, and he's like, oh my God, I'm stuck on this island. And that hot chick kisses him, kisses him. He's like, I'm stuck on this island. Reminds me of like Home Alone. I made my family disappear, and then he like turns around and realizes how awesome it is, and he's like, I made my family. Like, that's actually one joke that works for me on a regular basis, where you realize that you say it, and then you're like, wait, this is a wonderful thing. And then we find out the island is inhabited by God knows what, and there's a fucking volcano erupting in the background. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like the setup for a sequel. I'm sure it was, and this movie did not fare well. It had like I looked at the budget versus the gross. Whew, it was gross. It was bad. It actually lived up to the word gross. It was, man, definitely not. And his catchphrase in this movie is, now what? So, well, to answer your question, sir, on now what, I am going to go inside and try to watch I have so many movies. X-Files, man, I want to watch X-Files so bad, but there's so many films right now that I've been looking at, and on Shudder, on Amazon, on a bunch of different places that I want to watch. So you're going to see a lot of movie reviews here over the next week or two. I have a ton of titles, so stay tuned for that. I'm sorry I got too preachy. Okay, I'm not sorry, but you know what I mean. All right, guys.